Welcome to FESIG, the Free Energy Special Interest Group, where science meets spirituality in the quest for truth and knowledge to free humanity and transform this planet into a paradise. Hi everyone! Hey, welcome to Physics 129th meeting. Today is the 2nd of October 2024. We are so honored to have you choosing to be with us today at Physics meeting. We're so delighted to be sharing the knowledge and the information that our illumined speakers have come forward to our platform to bring to us. So without much ado, I am going to share screen now so we can see the agenda for the day, right? Okay, so share screen coming up, share screen. There you go. You can see FESIG is a Free Energy Special Interest Group. It is a platform where science meets spirituality. And here we have, okay, so we have my co-chair here with me, Dr. Fres Prezel. I'm Crystal Gore. I'm your chair, and month after month, the first Wednesday of the month, we have our meeting. So pen it down in your diary, and there's so much you can learn from our brilliant speakers. Our website is truevisionofpeace.com/physics.html. Right, so this is Platform where Science Meets Spirituality. Once a month, we have a gathering like this, and with some of the most brilliant minds, futurist freedom seekers group, right, to come and teach us here on what they know. And we are a whole bunch of technologies here, apart from spiritualists as well. So we encourage scientists, researchers, inventors, developers of free energy and healing modalities to go within, touch their hearts, to know the truth and to know what's going to be good for all in their development of the technologies. So the first session, which is completed with Marina Jacobi, the one and only Marina, who returns for the 6th time to talk about the hologram in consciousness, unlocking a true self, the crystal structure of consciousness, quantum entanglement, and ET technologies, and to discuss the cosmic key, the etheric energy mimicking and taking of the energetic field, which is the hologram, and so on and so forth. And please look out for the videos once it's published. It's going to take a couple of weeks to do that because we don't have paid staff here and we do everything ourselves and it takes time. And we are offering all this for free. Okay, so if you got some extras, do pay forward so we can maintain our website and engage webmasters to help out now and again when things goes wrong. Otherwise, everything is homemade here, DIY here at FESIG, unfortunately. So don't expect top-notch professionalism because we don't have the means to attain that yet until we get funding. So the second session now, we have Mike Upstone, who returns from our 34th meeting, FESIG meeting in 2017, when he presented the Universal Trust, to now talk about the paradigm-changing health technologies, which is so needed, with an emphasis on a home use energy healing and regeneration device. Keep Health, which is his website's name, focuses on empowering home healers, doctors, and clinicians by supporting specific state-of-the-art regenerative modalities and integrating them. So you know that we have our FESIG public meeting once a month, every first Wednesday of the month. So please bear with us if we just announce the meeting, the details for the next meeting, like a few days before the meeting starts. That is to avoid trolls and things like that, right? So you know, every first Wednesday of the month, pen it down in a diary. We bring some of the best speakers to share with you their knowledge, all right? So just join us, pen down in your diary, the 6th of November for our next meeting, our 130th FESIG meeting, all right? So Please go to our website to check it out every now and again to see all the details and the past meeting reports and everything. Our website is truevisionpeace.com/visit.html. You can write to me, Crystal, at truevisionpeace.com. Subscribe to our 3 channels: BitChute, YouTube, Odyssey, and our Facebook. You can see announcements of meetings, announcements of this and that, and we share a lot of valuable information as well in our Facebook account, as well as FESIG's Telegram channel. Our Telegram channel allows you to integrate with each other. I mean, like, well, you can form study groups because it's so fascinating to learn from these brilliant speakers of ours, right? And you can interact with each other as well. So there you go. Without much ado, I'm going to introduce Mike now. Okay. Okay, you can share screen. Yeah, Mike, but give me a moment. I want to introduce you. Mike Upstone, as I mentioned earlier, was speaking about the Universal Trust in 2017 on our 34th meeting. He actually spoke on organization and economy for the Universal Trust, right? But today he returns as president of Keep Health Scientific Research, Verein Association, based in Austria. Okay. And his presentation covers paradigm-changing health technologies with an emphasis on home use, energy healing, and regeneration devices. Keep Health focuses on empowering home healers, doctors, and clinicians by supporting specific state-of-the-art regenerative modalities and integrating them. Mike will explain their choice of technologies, why they use them, how they work, and how well they work. And Mike has been a super duper trooper of a light warrior, because most of his life he has been setting up, humanitarian charitable organizations, initiatives, and helping people a lot out there. He's got a golden heart. So without much ado, I pass the microphone over to you now, our brother of the light, Mike Upstone. Thank you
Thank
for
you
bracing up.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for being here this evening, and to those who I guess are going to listen on the recordings. But first of all, I'd like to give you something for free, and in fact, I've posted this into the window, which is a link to some quantum manifestation meditations on YouTube. And like everything I deal with, what I'm trying to do is to put state-of-the-art things together. And what you'll find is there are some very specific frequencies in those videos, including for remote healing. And anyone can do this. So these are very short videos. They're based on the work of a number of selected people, but there's free stuff that you can do and that you can engage with. So that's just the start. Let's move on and go to the presentation. So here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of Keep Health Scientific Research, which is keephealthresearch.org. And our passion is discovering the world's most advanced home healing devices and enhancing their results. So we're a non-profit based in Austria, and our intention is to connect the people, as many of them as possible, and everyone on this call, to information, technology, education, and to support in order to empower them to heal themselves and as many other people as possible. So we know, not just believe or intend, we know with the right information, equipment, and know-how for the situation, almost anyone can use energy healing. The key issues that we've identified are that actually I've been to websites where there's been literally hundreds of devices, and this area is exploding. And in fact, it's forecast to grow tenfold over the next 10 years. That's alternative healthcare. And the area that's forecast within alternative healthcare to grow more than anything else is devices. So you arrive at a website and you're seeing hundreds of devices and you go, well, Which one do I want? What do they do? Don't these things all do the same thing? What's my best choice? Um, and that's a very, very difficult process to get your questions answered. And the question that, most people want is what works best for my problem and why? And then if we want to take that one step further, which items can be synergized, which are completely different modalities to produce even better results? And then following on from that, most people really want to know, how do they work? How well do they work? And what kind of success rate can I expect? So I'm going to show you the evidence in this presentation this evening, including X-rays and photographs and things like that. So how does Keep Health support its users, first of all? The first thing is with equipment selection. We really try and offer very, very few things that are extremely carefully chosen and for particular reasons. And I'll go into the reasons this evening. And then we offer information about application and training, individual support, group support. So everyone who joins and especially gets the training gets individual support. And there's some people with some really difficult problems out there and some pressing timescales. So people, for example, who've got who are on dialysis because they've lost their kidney function. And we're trying to help people like that. And there are also really unlimited monthly group support calls as well, where even if you can't attend the call, you can send in an email question and I will do my best to answer it. And if I don't know, I'll find someone who can answer it. And we really offer broad information as well. So within the training, we cover things like quantum manifestation and remote healing, which is the videos that I've shared this evening as well. And within this concept of helping people to help themselves and help others, there's also financial support because there's a one level, not multi-level, one level financial system where people get rewarded for referrals. But that's also for life, as long as you pay your 30 euros a year membership. So we're really opening this up as broadly as possible to as many people as possible. So the big question is, what technology works best and how? And within the sort of scope of things that we've looked at are things like PEMF, pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, patches, things like that. And the quick version is that, a lot of these things, if not most of them, work. As long as they operate with resonant frequencies that harmonize with the body, that the body can use for healing or for communications, then the chances are that that will work. However, there is a however, and that is the body can become tolerant of its own signals, never mind the signals from something from outside. So the analogy I draw is this. If we hear someone droning on and on and on and on about something, um, and it doesn't particularly interest us after a while, then we really tend to switch off. Or if we hear the same piece of music playing again and again repetitively, we tend to switch off. And this can also happen with the body. We can have a niggling injury or illness or something like that, and it just doesn't go away, but we learn to sort of live with it and forget about it. So it sort of slides off our radar. And this is one of the reasons, one of the two main reasons why people don't heal in certain situations. One is an insufficiency of energy, and another one is poor coherence or communications. So this now opens up the next stage of development that's really interesting for us, which are devices that employ some kind of biofeedback. In other words, they will send messages, coherent signals, and energy to the body, but they'll also be listening to the response of the body and adjusting their approach accordingly. So as the body adapts to a given situation, the device itself will adapt so that conversation can change and develop and help to reduce or completely eliminate tolerance so that we get better, faster results. And other kinds of devices that we use include healing blankets, and the biofeedback devices and the healing blankets come from the Russian space medicine research program of the 1980s. So let's just delve into that very quickly. In the 80s, the Russians came to the conclusion that taking pills and potions into space is a problem. because the water is recycled. And then those pills and potions come out in the water. And as we know from the cities nowadays, the estrogen from the contraceptive pill goes into the water. Everyone ends up drinking it. And that's not great, especially if you're a guy, but it's not great for anyone really. And the problem is to take out that level of chemical contamination from the water takes a relatively bigger and heavier technology. And big and heavy when it comes to space starts to absolutely skyrocket the price, literally. So the Russians put over 1,000 of their top biophysicists, doctors, engineers, etc., into this program to develop effectively space medicine technologies. And the program lasted for over 10 years, I think, and it cost over $100 million. And out of that came the biofeedback devices like the scanner, which I'm going to cover later on, and the healing blankets, and also a branch of the bioresonance technologies, bioresonance diagnostics technologies. And I'm going to explain how they work as well very briefly. So bioresonance diagnostics is typically something where you have something like held pedals or something that sticks onto the skin. And it sends resonant signals into the body. And then it reads how those signals come out, kind of like a sonar or a radar or something like that. And what it particularly picks up is the resonant frequencies of viruses, parasites, bacteria, fungi, but also the harmonics of the systems of the body, like the endocrine system, for example. And so that technology then enables the user or the operator of the equipment to be able to identify the biggest problems and send in the counter frequencies. So this is rather like an opera singer singing a certain note and shattering a glass. So we've got a very, very effective and efficient process for removing pathogens that are harmful to the body. Now, as Wilhelm Reich found out when operating similar sorts of things with his orgone technology, and the problem there was that he was actually eliminating cancer, but it was such an effective process that the body was being overwhelmed by the toxic byproducts afterwards. So the Russians built another little element into this, which is then supporting the actions of the liver, the kidneys, the waste disposal systems of the body, so that that doesn't happen. So we've got these three branches of technology coming out of the Russian space medicine program, which have different effects and are more advanced in terms of the biofeedback compared to devices that just put in straightforward signals and potentially risk tolerance. Now, we also look at laser technologies, and the reason for that is that these are very different. The PEMF and the biofeedback devices tend to use things like, magnets, or they will use specific electrical frequencies. But there is a wealth of evidence for the regenerative capacity of laser technologies, especially what's known as low-level lasers, soft lasers, or resonating lasers. In fact, over 30,000 studies on PubMed with an absolute host of regenerative effects. And I'll go into explain what the difference is between energy healing and regeneration a little bit later on. And then when we look at hydrogen technologies, which are basically using electrolysis on water to release hydrogen and oxygen, or hydrogen and oxygen combinations known as HHO or hydroxy, or Brown's gas, which is a subset of that, then we're also seeing regenerative effects from those technologies as well. And the interesting thing is that a fair few of these things, some of them are really quite expensive, but a fair few of these things are really quite accessible. And they're going to become much more so in the next few years. Another thing that we have looked at very closely and have used includes brain training, where specific frequencies are put into the head for very particular effects. And I'll go into that as well. And then we've got a new generation of technologies coming out, including things like plasma. So there's a host of technologies in this area, what works best and how. So let's briefly address why Keep Health is needed. And that's because we're dealing with paradigm changing technology, and people don't really like generally changing paradigms, especially when we've got the background issues of something called iatrogenesis, which is literally death by medicine. And that's the third biggest killer officially in the United States after heart disease and cancer. And in fact, some doctors have looked at this and they've said, well, hang on a cotton picking minute. Heart disease is largely diagnosed before people die, and so is cancer. And if not, then it tends to be picked up post-mortem. However, iatrogenesis isn't. And what doctors are suggesting is that iatrogenesis is not just the third biggest killer, but it's actually understated by between 80 and 95% due to the lack of pre-diagnosis and post-mortem confirmation. So it could easily be by far and away the biggest killer, and pharma is dangerous. So we've also got some structural elements within this marketplace, which are that the pharma companies themselves are competing against each other. They like to make money and they like to make a lot of it. And as a result, they end up paying a lot of money into political lobbying. And a lot of the politicians have some quite healthy pharma portfolios and they make a lot of money from that. But Big Pharma also introduces and supports and sponsors specific legislation to carve out a niche for itself and to protect itself. So we now have the involvement of the political and legislative establishment with pharma money as well. And the problem is that pharma money is so big and so influential because, according to some people, the top 5 or 10 pharma companies in the US make more money than the whole of the rest of the Fortune 500 combined. So what they're saying is that pharma puts in a huge amount of money to lobbying, and it's either the number one, depending on who you listen to, or number two, after the military companies. So the problem from a political point of view then is that elections depend on this. So you would be a brave politician or a brave party to say, well, I'm going to blow the whistle on what's happening in the pharma industry. And although there seem to be some moves afoot for this at the moment, we all know how politics rolls. It can end up quite a random and interesting sort of process, and politicians don't always provide what they offer. So let's hold a bit of space open for that at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen in the political arena. And now we've got the media role as well, because according to other sources, 75% of mainstream media advertising money in the United States comes from the big pharma companies. So it's going to be a brave or a foolish media mogul who effectively cuts the throat on his business by walking away from all that money on the table. But let's make an assumption for a second. Even if we could deal with all of those three really critical structural problems, there is still another problem, which is buried data, including things like nutritional studies, which are over 800,000 on PubMed. There are well over 1 million clinical trials dealing with these new paradigm kind of technologies. And the problem is that they're buried. And the way the pharma industry manipulates this information means that AI is probably very unlikely to make sense of it either. And the rationale for that was explained by a guy called Professor Ben Goldacre from Oxford University, who's done a couple of great videos on YouTube, Bad Science, and what doctors don't know about the drugs they prescribe. And what he describes about the doctors is he gives one example of a big drug where over 50 or so studies were done into it. 26 came out in favor, 24 against. And what actually happened was that 25 of the 26 in favor were published, and only 3 of the 24 against were published. And that creates the presentation or the image that the pharma companies are publishing the studies that are coming out against their products, but they're simply stacking the data. So there are all sorts of problems in this area with respect to the fact there's a lot of money on the table, and there are big vested interests which are very powerful. But our belief is that everyone needs to know about this. These technologies will proliferate, and we're going to support that process. But at the same time, they also need protection. And what we decided was that the Austrian Verein format fulfills this. And the reason is that the Austrian Verein is effectively a private society or private association that predates the Austrian constitution. Excuse me. Because it goes back to 1711. And what does that mean in practice? It means in practice, we're registered. but we have the minimum sort of foothold in the legal world. It's just enough to say, this is a non-profit organization. We're recognized as a non-profit organization, but the byproduct is that we're a sovereign entity. And we're recognized as being sovereign and equal to the state, which has very, very little say in what we can do or checks or anything like that. We're equal to the state in Austria and across the EU. So this is a very powerful position to hold, and we think that this particular type of format of organization is very interesting as a result, because unlike a lot of private societies, they don't have that level of recognition within the system. So this is a quite unique entity for a unique mission, effectively. So let's really get to the bones of this. What can energy healing do? Well, it can deal with rapid healing, pain, and inflammation. And the next generation of technologies can deal with regeneration and rejuvenation, including the stimulation of stem cell production. Let's just differentiate for a second between energy healing, though, and regeneration and rejuvenation. Because if you're unlucky enough to have something like a heart attack, your body will want to repair it very, very rapidly. And what you end up with typically then is a scar on the heart, and that causes dysfunction and damage to the operation of the heart and to the body. And equally, if you end up with a scar over a major energy route of the body, then that causes a plethora of problems as well. So energy healing is very rapid healing. Regeneration, though, is something next generation completely. And this is our focus on the kind of devices we're interested in, because regeneration will undo an injury, an illness, or a trauma, an emotional trauma, as if it never happened in the first place. In other words, it will restore that heart or that organ or whatever it is to the state as if it had never happened. And in fact, it can frequently be better than it was beforehand. So rejuvenation then is taking things into another level in terms of helping skin to be younger, for example, organs to be younger. So this is the differentiation we apply between energy healing and regeneration. And along the way, as I've explained, we've got technologies using frequencies to eliminate viruses, bacteria, and parasites. Now, one thing our technology does is it undoes energy cysts, including emotional traumas. So what's an energy cyst? Well, the universe operates on the conservation of energy principle, and so does the human body. And what happens is we might have a disease like chickenpox when we're younger. And in order to conserve energy, if the body hasn't got a sufficiency of energy or good enough quality communications at that time, it will actually wrap up that virus or an injury or an emotional trauma into something called an energy cyst. And what we do with our technologies is go ahead and detect them and remove them as if, and this is all part of the healing process. So an energy cyst, nevertheless, although it conserves energy, still uses a little bit of energy to keep itself maintained. So let me give an example of this, a practical example, because now we're already dealing with Russian energy medicine theory, and it links to homeopathy and a lot of other things as well. So if you have chickenpox when you're younger, if you become much older, maybe you get under a lot of strain, you're completely exhausted, your energy's low, then what can happen can be that the virus held by the energy cyst can break open and mutate. And the next thing is you've got shingles. So this is a classic example of an energy cyst operating within the body. So our job is to detect them and undo them. And when we undo them, we tend to get kind of a little shadow revisiting of the event, whether it's an injury or an accident or an emotional trauma or whatever. It's kind of like an NLP or hypnosis experience, except no one else is involved. You just get some of the minor sort of effects of that issue coming back to visit for a short time while it's thoroughly processed out of your system. But other things we can do with these technologies include increasing IQ, increasing creativity, and the technologies can also deal with traumatic brain injuries, autism, detoxing, post-traumatic stress disorder, and much, much more. But also, back to the videos I supplied free at the start of the call, they can also be used as a platform for manifestation. So this is also spiritual technology. And it's out there, it's free, and it's open for anyone. Just click on the link that I've sent and you can use it for yourself. So the main factors for consideration include things like patches, for example. So they appear to be low cost and they are stimulated as an organic crystallized amino acid by infrared heat or from light from the body. And what they do is then that they release their own energy in the form of light. And these things are put over specific acupoints, strategic energetic points on the body. And they work. Uh, but they don't have a feedback mechanism, and that means they probably have a limited shelf life because of sending this same message into the body time and time again. And also the costs mount up. So, but these kind of things can produce detox effects. They can stimulate stem cell production, and they can also use light-based photobiomodulation, so they help the body to regulate itself using light. But like PEMF devices, then there's no feedback, and that means that all of these things are open to tolerance. And furthermore, when we look at the top patch company, there are 10 types, and each one costs $150 a month. And a lot of people are using three of these things at once. And what they say is that you should be using them for a minimum of 3 months or 1 month for each decade that you've lived. So here am I, I'm 61. I'm going to have to buy 6 months worth, and it'd be really nice to have all 10. So it starts to mount up pretty quickly. And then we're still running the risk of tolerance. And the final thing is we want to know how well these things work, because if it's 30%, the chances are that's the placebo effect. What we want to see is performance that is way above 30%. So because we know the measurement of the placebo effect, and we want to know that there's a really good chance that this will work. So let's look at that for a second. What we're looking at with our technologies is typically 85% plus. And a lot of these things produce miracle type results very, very quickly. And here we have one of those miracle type results, because what we're seeing is one of the latest generation Russian space medicine devices. And this is an instance of osteomyelitis of the shoulder on a 1-year-old baby. Can you imagine being the mother or father of that baby? And the total top of the arm, known as the capitellum, has been destroyed by this illness. And the next thing is the bone is going to be removed, the arm is going to be removed, maybe a lot more is going to be removed, and that's it. You've got a crippled child for the rest of your life. However, this is the effect of one technology, an electrical adaptive stimulator, as it's known. And 2 years later, there's a complete capitellum on that bone again. So we've got X-ray evidence, and we've got the interim X-rays as well, because obviously, people can play tricky games with this in terms of, well, what came before and what came after. So we're gathering the evidence of this and presenting it to the public. But one observation I'd like to share is this is just one technology. What if we'd been bringing the host of the best of the best home use regenerative technologies into this situation? How quickly would that have happened instead? Let's look at another example. This is regeneration, 6 weeks into a 3rd-degree burn. And so back to regeneration, it's like an illness or injury never happened in the first place. Now, in this case, looking at the horrendous state of the arm on the left, then you would think, that's going to be very, very painful. And you're probably going to have to be filled full of drugs. And also, then what about the risks of infection? Well, the beauty of using things like a low-level laser, which was what was used on this case, is that it resolves pain very, very quickly. In fact, I slipped on icy stone steps a couple of years ago. I smashed 5 ribs, so I double broke each one. The middle bit was off at an angle. I punctured a lung, and I ended up being carted off to hospital over Christmas. And I took my laser and my ENS with me. And in fact, I was coming off painkillers the first day. And in overall, I had 90% less drugs through the whole process, including sleeping tablets and painkillers. And that was despite me making a conscious choice that I was going to take them at night for the first few days, just to guarantee I got a really good night. So one of the interesting aspects of a laser is that it can switch off the pain. and that's going to be really important in a situation like this, but also it kills bacteria. And these are home use devices. And the bacteria that is outside the killing zone of the light itself get driven away from the light into the bloodstream to be destroyed by the leukocytes. So you're never going to get results like this from traditional pharma. We've got a better example than this, but this is a sports injury being treated again by a low-level laser, and these are the kind of results we can get from 20 minutes. In fact, one of the users of our technologies explained that an 89-year-old mother with Alzheimer's badly bruised her hand. She put the ENS device on that hand, and the bruise was almost completely gone within an hour. This is an explosive wound on the leg of an 83-year-old. I've treated people myself, old people who've had uh, um, ulcers. And when I did it, it took about 4 months as well. But you can imagine without this kind of technology, I don't think that wound is going to heal on an 83-year-old. It's very, very prone to breaking open again, to infection, all the rest of it. And in fact, I treated something very similar over the summer for a friend of my parents who was 89 years of age. And she had an open suppurating sore on the front of her leg that was probably about 1.5 inches, 2 inches across, highly inflamed. And within 2.5 weeks, that was completely gone, totally healed. And that was just using two technologies together. Well
Oh,
chosen.
amazing.
Yeah. Now we've got a horse wound, and animals are interesting and important as well, for all sorts of reasons. But of course, one of the main one is they don't have a placebo effect. So this is actually a racehorse treated by a low-level laser again. And in fact, this was a champion racehorse, and it ended up the next year not just racing again, but winning again. And the normal prognosis for a horse in this position is it's going to get shot. But what we can see in terms of the evidence is the main scar area has been shrinking. The hair has been regrowing over that area. The outer scars are also shrinking, and it was fit to race the next season. Now, this one is another horrible one that's normally dealt with surgically. This is a brown recluse spider bite and causing necrosis. And we've got a young guy here, and the normal solution from medicine is, well, we can't really do anything about that, so we're just going to start to cut the dead flesh away. Well, you can imagine the devastating impact that that would have had on this young guy's face, his head, his hair, and his ear. And instead, we have the results of a low-level laser as well. But again, one technology. And I'm absolutely convinced that if we put 2 or 3 or more technologies into this situation, he'd have probably been completely cured by the time the second photograph was taken. So the whole process would have been very greatly accelerated. Here is an 89-year-old post-operation. I don't know if you can see on the right-hand side of the screen because I've got everyone's picture there. But basically, this is the 89-year-old with Alzheimer's fell down, broke her leg, had to have it operated on. We've got the images from day 19 when the staples came out, and then the image on the right-hand side is day 34, and that scar has almost disappeared. This is now the use of two technologies, ENS plus a laser, and the doctors and nurses were absolutely amazed at seeing this.
Wow.
This is a fantastic one. It almost made me cry because this is a very, very badly brain damaged young girl. And this is the improvement after one 12-minute session using brain training technology. Now, typically with brain training technology, this is a permanent effect. If it was you or I being treated with it after 12 minutes, our IQ would be around about 10% higher. However, if you've got a very severe disability or brain injury or something, then typically you get effects like this, which is more like 30%. And if you look at the left-hand photo, the eyes are glazed. There's nothing there at all. There's nothing home for that poor child. And if you look at it afterwards, the lights are on. This child is, is clearly conscious, cognizant, and engaging with the rest of the world. So let's explain a little bit about the theory of how this works and where remission comes in, because remission is a badly understood or misunderstood concept as far as we're concerned, dealing with these things from the energetic perception. So what most people and what most doctors, I believe, seem to think is that when a disease is in remission, it's gone and the person is better. But with our theory, nothing is further from the truth. And let me give you an example of the cycle of illness, because this needs to happen for the illness to complete and for it to be got rid of, and back to energy cysts in that respect. So the first thing is, top right, we end up with a peppery, sort of itchy feeling in the nose, which is due to the inflammation of the mucous membranes in the nose. Then we get a painful throat and the glands come up. Then we get a fever. Then we start aching and feeling bad all over. And then once that goes, then we feel about 10 years older and our energy is depleted before it comes back and we're fully restored. However, what happens with stuck processes is that people go into remission, they get some of the symptoms, the cycle of illness can't complete, the energy depletes and the communications depletes from the body, and then they uh, um, sort of go into this remission period. Thank goodness the symptoms are gone. But the moment the body gets energy or coherence enough to deal with it, what it does is it wakes up and it wants to fight the illness again. And we need to understand this, and this is part of our training, because if we treat someone with our technologies of the chronic illness and they're in remission, the first thing the body's going to do is get enough energy and coherence to want to fight the illness and manifest all the symptoms. So we generally advise people deal with it when the body's in the acute phase and all the symptoms are already being manifested. If not, you're going to get blamed for waking up the illness. So what's happening under the surface is this. The body restores its balance by self-regulation, creating homeostasis by adaptation. And it's just a very simple system that we can illustrate this with. So we've got our system, the disturbances come in. It could be an illness or an injury, or equally, it could be you walking down the street and you're hit by a particularly strong gust of wind. The system measures what happens to that. That information goes back into the controller. It sends the instructions to adapt to that situation. And then we've got a restoration of balance. So what's happening is a constantly changing dynamic state of balance. And that's homeostasis. It's the definition is biological stability and dynamic equilibrium. So like this ballet dancer, she can balance and appear to be completely still inside a theatre, for example. But you bet she can do that outside as well. And you bet there's going to be some wind outside also on most occasions. And although she can appear to be completely still, what's really happening is she has a super fine sense of balance and very, very fast reactions to be able to restore that sense of balance when imbalance comes in. So how do we support this process if this is what is underlying our healing responses from the body? And it's aided by stimulating adaptive reactions. Of course, the better the sense of balance, the quicker the response, the less the problems with an injury or illness. So these are some of the technologies that we really focus on, including the scanar, which was the first generation device from the Russian space medicine program, developed by Dr. Alexander Karasev. The second generation, so scanar is an energy healing device. Cosmotic was a regenerative device. And then, because of the very different characteristics of both those technologies, the third generation incorporated both of them at the same time, and that was the slider. And then came the ENS, and now the very latest is the ENS Plus. And I was lucky enough to have the second one outside Russia last year. So let's look at the scanar and how it works. It's got electrodes on the back, and we connect it to the skin, and it inputs electricity. But not just any old electricity. It's supplying specific harmonic frequencies that the body uses for its own healing and for its own communications. And it's doing something much more clever on top of that. It's actually creating an artificial nerve impulse. So the body is recognizing that energy as its own. And in fact, it's modifying the nerve impulse so it looks like a pain impulse. And then it's doing something even more cunning. It's adding biofeedback so that the body's reactions to those impulses can then be measured and recognized, and then other impulses could be sent in instead. And if the first device is like or if the scanar is like a music teacher, then I don't know if you can see this, but underneath the images on the right-hand side, we've got a sergeant major shouting, "Wake up." And this is pretty much what happens. So the scalar sends in a frequency to the body, emulating a nerve impulse. If we get the correct response from the nervous system, then the feedback mechanism recognizes that, and now it goes, okay, now play another note. So it's improving the performance of the nervous system. But it's kind of like shouting at the body to improve its performance. The cosmodic, the next generation, also puts in electricity, also uses harmonics. But in this case, it's not got one, but 46 simultaneous biofeedback loops. And that created a profound difference because this is more like a conductor tuning up a whole orchestra and actually communicating with the central nervous system itself. And in terms of the energetic effects, if the scalar is like a quite a rude but very effective sergeant major, then this is much more like soft, gentle, feminine energy, going and operating on a much slower, deeper process, but actually stimulating regenerative processes from the body. It's much more like a mother going to a child first thing in the morning, going, "Come on, dear, wake up. It's time to go to school." Then the third generation came in, and this is ENS. So ENS now has a focus on harmonic information. It's putting in bundles or packets of very, very concentrated information to the body, but it's also providing the scalar mode and energy and the cosmodic focus on regeneration as well. So we now have three very different forms of energy healing coming into the body. And now we have the ENS Plus coming in on top. So if we think about the ENS and how that operates, we have the scalar, which is like the sergeant major. We have the cosmodic, which is like the conductor. The ENS is putting in packets of very, very tiny, apparently randomized microfrequencies looking like noise. And this is kind of like offering a harmonic feast, if you like. So it's like having your friends, picky children come for dinner. What on earth am I going to feed them? And the answer is, we'll give them everything and let them choose what they want. And that's kind of what's happening with the body, because the heart, the liver, the lungs, etc., all have to work harmonically together, but they're all using different frequencies. So it's adding in the scalar and it's the cosmodic and the ENS on top with a cosmodic plus technology, which has just come out, which is now far more informationally based as well. So we've got now four different kinds of technology in one device where when we plug it to the skin, it modifies itself according to what happens to the body. And we now end up with a very, very advanced technology still built in a satellite factory to this day that is stimulating regenerative effects. So the other things that we're interested in include HHO, top left, colloidal silver in the middle, brain training on the right-hand side, and you see the screen with the various frequencies there, which are going to be played through that program. And then LEDs are clipped to your glasses, and then you put earphones in, and you get beeping and flashing sequences being played directly into the brain. And you've got the laser and the healing blanket. So these are home use devices working with the cells of the body, working with the central nervous system itself, and through the central nervous system and through the neuromediators influencing the endocrine system and the production of hormones and other things within the body, the DNA. So these devices work down to the DNA as well. And we get some interesting letters from doctors from time to time saying, by any chance, does your device influence the DNA? The body's light transmission system, which was identified in the 1980s by Fritz Albert Popp as light being produced mostly by the DNA that gets sent around the body as a communications and mechanism system, as if nothing is in the way of it. And it uses the microtubules of the cells to facilitate that process. And we also go on the training course into quantum biology, linguistic wave genetics, the work of Dr. Peter Gariev, the body's fractal connections in order to target the treatments more accurately, cellular energy and communications. And so the overall thrust of what we're dealing with, including the quantum and the remote healing and stuff, is that we're trying to really connect people to technology and information to empower people to improve their own lives, their own health, and as many people around them as possible, including doctors and clinicians, but a lot of the users are actually home users because this is a very, very simple, safe kit. A couple more examples. 54-year-old female improved her vision in both eyes by 0.25. She ended up with 20/20. The treatment time was under 7 minutes on each eye, 1 to 2 times a week. So this is how little treatment you need in some cases, and how quickly things can happen. And again, this is one modality, not multi-modalities. Fibromyalgia, day 17 after 6 ENS treatments, which would typically be about sort of 25 to 35 minutes. And this lady reported the least pain since she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia 2.5 years ago. And she said some mornings she could barely walk. She struggled to put her shoes and socks on and get dressed. She had immediate pain relief after the first treatment, incredible improvement in her movement. She ended up with full mobility and very little pain after 17 days and was dancing in the kitchen with her children and even cried happy tears. So our special focus as an organization, if you like, is this black art, I suppose, of integrating complementary modalities because they don't all work together for even better, even faster results. So let's now very briefly cover how the low-level laser works, because there's over 30,000 clinical trials on PubMed about this. It uses light to stimulate healing. Typically, it goes up to 10 centimeters down into the body. It, in turn, energizes sick and injured cells. The photons are converted to electrons around the cell wall, and it has regenerative effects on skin, nerves, bones, ligaments, and organs. Well documented. In fact, if you bullet pointed in quite small text all the healing effects of the soft laser, then it would probably cover the best part of 2 sides of A4 paper. The muscles relax, stress is reduced, bacteria is killed, it boosts immunity, it stimulates photobiomodulation, cellular metabolism, and it has effects on pain and inflammation. How does hydrogen therapy work? Well, we can take it as a drink with hydrogen bubble through water, distilled water, or we can inhale it, or we can even blow it on the skin. So what's happening is it's offering bioavailable hydrogen to the body. And hydrogen is another key energetic component of a healthy body because a healthy gut produces about 100 liters of bioavailable hydrogen a day, which weighs less than a gram. And bioavailable hydrogen is used by all the cells of the body. It has potent antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and cyto, so cell protective effects, but it's also an electron donor, so it's working energetically. It also has a role in gene regulation and neuroprotection, and it's another regenerative technology on the skin, the nerves, the bones, the ligaments, and the organs. In fact, so much so, it's officially a medicine in Japan. It's used for treating strokes, cancer, and over 200 illnesses. And we tend to think about pH and things like that in the body in terms of alkalinity. But of course, what pH is not, it's only on one level, it's acidity and alkalinity, but it's also potential of hydrogen. And what the Japanese have proved is that you can measure the bioavailable hydrogen coming out from the breath, and it drops down a few days before people die. So this is very important. And we can boost this very, very quickly and very effectively by breathing in the hydrogen. And that in turn produces these alkalizing effects, which means that basically if your body is 7.4 or above, so between 7.4 and 8, then there's really very, very little chance of cancer, for example, surviving in that environment. Whereas if it goes quite acidic, then there's every chance that cancer will thrive in that environment. So there's a connection between hydrogen and cellular energy and the cell membrane as well. So the healing blanket, how does that work? It was developed from the cosmonaut suits of the Russian space medicine program. And I wouldn't say it eliminates, it can do, but it certainly reduces disturbing EMF frequencies from mobile phones, Wi-Fi routers, things like that. So that's important. How clean is our environment? More importantly, what it was found to do was to reflect the body's biofield back towards it. So this is the projection of light from the cells of the body, but also the electrical frequencies the body produces. And what was found was then that the biofield can be photographed using Kirlian photography, and you can see the fractures in someone's biofield if they're very stressed, for example. So pop them into the healing blanket for a few minutes. Those fractures are gone. The biofield is back to coherence. And this is typically used as a very, very simple, basic biofeedback mechanism, but also to amplify the effects of the other healing modalities. So this is, again, combining these things together. How does brain training work? Well, it applies frequencies the brain uses using light and sound. And these are specific frequencies. So there's a frequency for decision making, there's a frequency for learning, there's a frequency for memory, there's a frequency for sleep, etc. And these can be played into the brain. And in an ideal world, what you do is get someone to do the exercises of those activities as those frequencies are being played into the brain. So this was the technology that was used for that 12-year-old girl earlier on. What's actually happening is the holy grail of brain science, which is that normally in most people, one hemisphere is bigger than the other. And that creates an imbalance and it creates communication problems. So subject to these frequencies, something very interesting happens. The dominant hemisphere, bigger than the other one, drops down to meet the weaker hemisphere, and then it assists both hemispheres then to grow back to the size of the dominant hemisphere. And in the process, what we get is neurogenesis, new neural networks being built by the billions, but also neuroplasticity, the ability of the existing mechanisms, the existing networks to modify. So here's an awesome example. I'm coming to the end now. And I'd love you to look at this. This is the IAHP.org in America, the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential. This is also brain training, but it's a very different kind of brain training because IAHP started in about 1948 and they were desperately trying to help very, very severely brain damaged children. And what has come out of this is truly awesome and heartwarming and inspiring. So they've done studies on 25,000 brain injured children. And what they really wanted to do was improve the quality of life of those children. And boy, have they succeeded. Because these are very, very brain damaged children that can't see, can't hear, can't talk, can't crawl in many cases. And what's happened is that these specific techniques have identified the stage of the brain development at which a brain injury has happened. And then they go back and they can reprogram the brain, for example, with crawling, by showing the baby the mechanics of crawling. And then they're able to progress through that stage due to neuroplasticity. So they're not using the technologies we're using. I wish they were, because the combination would be absolute dynamite, I think. But what it means is that these children who are very brain damaged, on average, are now performing better than normal children by the time they leave school. Here are the stats. 84% of blind children's sight is being restored. 83% of deaf children's hearing is being restored. 40% of children unable to move were able to crawl, and many of them to walk and to run afterwards as well. So you can imagine the potential of connecting these different modalities together. And there's a great book. I think everyone should have this. Everyone should know about it. It's called How to Teach Your Baby to Read. And that's literally what they're doing. They're gamifying reading for babies. And these babies are then ending up, even if they've got Down syndrome and stuff like that, able to read proper books, newspapers, things like that by the age of 3 or 4. Because the vast majority of the brain development is happening year 1, slightly less year 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then about the time the children go to school, at the age of 7, it drops off a cliff. So we need to know about this kind of stuff, I think. So the question is, even knowing about these technologies, can we do even better? And the answer is yes, by cross-fertilizing the technology approaches and combining them together. There are other things that we can consider, which is the work of Nobel Prize winning physiologist and Dr. Yoshinori Oshumi. And he won his Nobel Prize for dry fasting. So if you're interested in fasting, autophagy, resetting the systems of the body. It takes 18 hours. That's all. You just abstain from water and food for 18 hours. Then we've got a brilliant example from America, Dr. Joel Wallach, whose work is diet and supplements. He's a hilarious guy, absolutely brilliant. He was the recipient of $20 million of funding from the FDA in the 1980s and has subsequently had the FDA trying to sue him 8 times, I think it is, and he's beaten them on every occasion because he's the master of nutrition and stuff like that. We should also consider things like prebiotics, probiotics, and detoxes, our environment, our water quality, stress, and what about laughter? Because too many people are under too much stress, and there's a tremendous healing effect from helping people to laugh. So, the applications, in summary, are health, injuries, illnesses, emotional traumas, but also spiritual development, because we're dealing with frequencies and we're frequency beings. So in sports, you can improve reactions, speed, balance, etc. In cosmetology, visible, absolutely clearly visible wrinkle and blemish removal and rejuvenation within something like 25 minutes. Life enhancement in terms of work, performance, creativity, etc. Animals and spiritual development. So if you'd like to know more, our website is keephealthresearch.org. You can email me through the site, or you can email info@keephealthresearch.org. There's 2 free videos on YouTube as well from our training package. The new channel, which is at Keep Health Research on YouTube, and the old channel is at PQR Model on YouTube. And we also have those videos for quantum manifestation and remote healing, which anyone can use. So thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you, Mike.
It,
Oh, right. So, I mean, Marina was talking about, well, people needing to look after themselves health-wise. And here, Mike, our second session speaker, is giving you some of the solutions, right? So I just wanted to share screen. I wanted to thank Mike for um, helping me out here, because I needed to be able to have, well, well, I need to keep going, and we have to pay for things. It's not cheap to keep this machinery going at FESIG. We have to pay for subscriptions. It costs money to run this huge big thing and websites and all that. So I said to Mike, I said, look, oh, you have some awesome products. Would you want to help me out here? And then he said, yes. So I talked to my directors, and he actually paid forward to help us get this link here for me to be able to afford some of the services here for you, okay? Because we do everything here for free. We're not asking for you to pay any subscription. So Mike gifted me this link, keephealthresearch.org/KHA/28. So if you click on this link, because it's to purchase things there in his website, you need a referral link. Am I correct, Mike?
no, but if you use that, then what will happen will be that 5% of anything over €6,000 will come to FESIG, and 10% of anything under €6,000 will come to FESIG. And as honorary members, you'll get that for life. So if anyone signs up through you, then whenever they buy something, then you will get that commission as our little thank you for what you do, and to trying to, to support your activities as well.
Thank you. We've been doing this work for 8, 9 years now for free for all of you. It's all coming out from my pocket mainly, and the pockets of those team members at FESIG on the helm when it comes to building the technology. So, I mean, we are free energy platform here, right? So most of us are using screen readers. That's why for a moment I couldn't recognize the nine mentioned a name that is a real name. So anyway, so here you are, guys. Please do use this link when you want to get um, into Mike's website to get the product. So it's going to help us as well while we help you, right? So there you go. Thank you so much. Please take it down, KHA/28. Yeah, we are up to our necks with costs and wow, expenses and all that over 8+ years, and which is
I know the feeling, Crystal. I've been doing the same thing since probably about, yeah, 2010, something like that, one
I
way or
know.
another.
That's why I wanted to help you out here on our platform, so we help each other out. Okay. Yeah.
And I think
Right.
it's really powerful, inspiring information, and there's not enough of that at the moment. The universe has given us everything that we need in every situation. This is really one of the messages of quantum manifestation. The universe teaches us with resonance, which is, oh, I wanted that, or irony, which is the cosmic joke. I was looking at that, I thought about it, and I got it, and I didn't really want it, kind of thing. So,
It's awesome of the products that you presented here with testimonies of photographs showing the before and after. It's amazing. It's almost miraculous how you managed to heal these chronic cases so quickly within a short space of time. So,
um,
folks, do pay attention and look through our recordings once we publish it and put it up in the channel, so you can actually go into the details of what Mike presented. All right, so over to you now, my co-chair, Dr. Fresh Fresel, to start the ball rolling on the Q&A.
Lots of information. Thank you so very much. Basically, I was just sitting back absorbing everything and wasn't writing anything down. And we've seen across the board several modalities over the years. And you've touched on almost every one of theirs or the other ones of it that have been beginning to go into these modalities, everything from light frequencies to sound frequencies to hydrogen and some of these others. So I think the biggest question I have is, you said just recently, just a moment ago, it's been since 2010. How long, and your organization has been around a lot longer than that, hasn't it?
well, first of all, I was with the Universal Trust, and then really that was sort of spinning its wheels and it wasn't going anywhere. And it's like, well, okay, what's the universe saying here? Um, so I really continued to develop the thing that I had a passion for, which is how to connect the people to the technologies. And especially it was about the PQR house, which was about building a house, which is not just sustainable. I don't really like that word. It's not adequate enough. It should be abundant and resonant for the people. So, and I'm still working on that. In fact, it's been tucked within another sort of concept I've been working on, which is an AI concept, because back to that issue of Houston, there's a problem with the clinical data, then really we need to start again with this stuff, and we need to start at scale, because ordinary people want to have that answer to their question. I'm a male or a female, I'm so many years of age, I've got this problem. What's my prognosis? What's my best individual option? When will I begin to feel better? When will my BSU be resolved? And in an ideal world, what other technologies can I bring together? And what impact is that going to have on that situation? And really, that's why my conclusion is, well, there's all of this, corruption out there. We need to start again, and we need to enable home users, doctors, and clinicians to aggregate that data, but also to own that data and be rewarded for that data. So that stuff is still going effectively.
Some of the problems that we run with the concept of AI and computer backup of, sorting and stuff of information is the problem of garbage in, garbage out. And first part of your lecture, you talked about the diminishing how much of the results were being put out. We published 9 of the good stuff and only 2 of the detrimental. Is part of that garbage in, garbage out. Computers do a really good job of sorting data, and the more data they have, the longer it takes, of course, to sort it out. But the accuracy of the the answer that comes from it is only as good as the data that goes in. We get into the
Exactly.
physicians, and where we use they're in practice is they're the eyes and ears of the equipment and years of experience. They also see what has worked over time, and that's why we depend on our physicians for this. So how do we measure, how do we put these two concepts together is the question.
Well, I think, part of the problem is that the physicians don't understand this technology. I mean, they have almost no training in nutrition, for example. And so this
None.
is this is the challenge for us is, we need to support the doctors. We also need to support the clinicians and even in some cases, quite experienced energy healing practitioners. But on the other hand, we've got, you know, um, little old ladies, little old gentlemen who have a problem, who are fortunate enough to have stumbled across this technology or have researched it and then have the pockets to be able to get it. And then they want to know how to use it. So we have to provide data to fulfill that whole spectrum of requirements from the doctor who's got this, list of, I want to see the clinical trials, I want to see how many there are, I want to read the papers, through to someone who just goes, look, I've got this problem, and actually that device is due to arrive next week, and I want to be able to use it correctly, really effectively, immediately, because I want to see results of this straight away. Otherwise, the other thing is people's morale tends to get impacted by that. So you're quite right. I think structuring the data is really important, and this is where having some knowledge practically of me having treated probably the thick end of 1,000 people since about 2008 with one form or another of this technology, um, through to the theoretical understanding as well, means that we're then in a position to be able to create a structure for that data. Because a doctor wouldn't have a clue. They'd be thinking about placebo. Well, how do you have a placebo with an electrical device, for example? And then what are the implications of putting the wrong frequencies into the body, which might be their tendency, which is okay, well, you've got to feel a tingle. Well, we'll just throw these frequencies into the body. Hang on, if you don't understand that that's going to cause, disruption, then, these are the dangers and the complexities of dealing with a whole different modality of technology. And another one is, for example, you'd expect, someone with a chronic illness might have much longer treatment times than someone else. No, it's the complete reverse. The problem is they're so incoherent and have such low energy. They need just a little bit at the start, and then their body goes, enough. I need to process that, and then I'll take a little bit more in future, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. So the really coherent people can sit on one of these devices for an hour until it does something called dosing, which is when it's telling you it's made a significant difference to the body. In fact, it's not just the body either, it's mind, body, and spirit, is the way that the Russians describe the operation of their technology.
Which brings up a really interesting point. We take a look at Tesla and Reich and some of these others who were dealing in frequency, and the frequency background, the ether around them, as they would say, had a certain frequency to it. That was before the time of huge radio stations, huge microwave stations, cell towers and routers and all these kind of things. So now we're dealing with an environment that is completely different electromagnetically than these early researchers were dealing with. So how do we go around? Do we put them in a big Faraday cage and block all these other frequencies out for them to then step out of that cage and run into them again? How do we, with our modalities, with our devices, how do we take care of the background change in our frequencies to get to homeostasis, to get to health in the individual?
That's a brilliant question. I think there's a number of different sort of facets to the question, but the first one is by far and away the most sophisticated thing in the whole universe that we know of, apart from the universe itself, is the human body. It has this incredible capacity to self-balance, to cope with change, to reestablish homeostasis. And ultimately, once you've been down all these rabbit holes, well, isn't, the end of that process ascension, but also, quantum manifestation, our ability to pull in this knowledge from quantum physics about our thoughts make our reality, or our observations, actually, of things like the double slit experiment, um, influence our reality on an atomic and a subatomic level. Then that knowledge is like, well, okay, there's kind of a little bit of God in me, you, and everybody else. And we're all part of God as well. So this ability then just to pluck things out of the air, or to heal someone remotely, for example, these spooky, sort of almost supernatural capacities, well, surely that indicates that actually this is the thing that people who want to disempower us most want us not to know. Because once you get that, then it's like, well, okay, they might be doing this, that, or the other elsewhere, but I have the ability to conjure up miracles out of somewhere. And I say that in a generic sense because we're all capable of doing this, and we're all equally capable of doing this. It's all about technique. And I think technology can help as well in that respect. So yeah, we can do things to clean up our environment. We can use the healing blankets. We can have certain devices that help to um, neutralize or modify harmful EMF. We can have special building coating materials, even natural ones, that provide a crystalline EMF clean environment. Um, but otherwise, if that's going on out there, then our task as a body is back to homeostasis, back to, okay, I'm off balance, but how quickly can I get back there? How quickly can I restore that state of balance and reharmonize with whatever strange stuff is going on in the environment around me?
I had a student comment the other day. It says, isn't it weird that about 20 or 30 years ago, they removed the lead out of the paints, and now they're bombarding us with all these frequencies where the lead paint would have stopped it as a Faraday cage around us.
Yeah.
Going to the next question, then I'm going to turn it back to Crystal. You started out with the placebo effect, and that you can get sometimes up to 30% just on a placebo effect. And
Yeah.
a lot of our audience doesn't realize that basically, if there wasn't a placebo effect, it meant we wouldn't be able to heal ourselves. But because there's a placebo effect, it says that our body has the ability to do it. And that's where you went, let's see if we can go beyond it and go to the 80% in
Yeah.
results, I think is one of the remarks that you made.
80, 85
And I thought maybe, yeah, let's just,
minimum.
mhm.
That's what we're getting. But also, isn't just to pursue this question, because it's such an interesting one for me. Um, what's happening with the placebo effect? Somehow we're just kind of, I think the implication is, well, you've created your illness for yourself, and maybe on some metaphysical level that's true. But hang on a second. Um, yeah, epigenetics. Someone popped that into the window. What about our ability then to heal ourselves, to heal others, simply by dropping into or raising ourselves into a certain frequency? Surely that's what's really going on in that situation. And although there's various different ways of accessing this kind of data, like NLP and hypnosis, but also prayer and chanting and music and gongs and bells and all sorts of other stuff, then isn't all of this together, and isn't really the root underneath all of it actually in quantum physics, which is about our ability to sit back and observe things, but also to then get into a certain frequency of manifestation, connecting with billions of possibilities and going, oh yeah, that one. I kind of have a feeling this is exactly what's going to happen. And whether it's God or some other force, yeah, I can feel how that feels. That's absolutely brilliant. In fact, I think it's happening at the moment. And then bang, this is really the process of thoughts and feelings, which I think um, uh, our last speaker, sorry, I've forgotten her name for the moment, was
Marina.
talking about. So yeah,
Mhm.
Marina, and brilliantly and eloquently as well. But she kept on returning to the theme which was go back to the manifestation stuff, go back to quantum manifestation, go back to quantum manifestation, and that's it. So this is why really we've got these really very, very brief ones, but underpinned by specific technologies. And I've had some interesting reports of that. Hopefully, just bear with me for another 30 seconds. So
Sure.
I've had sort of master meditators doing those 8-minute meditations. And why 8 minutes? Because that's how Bruce Lipton described. Um, was it Bruce Lipton? Uh, Greg Braden described someone having a cancer removed through a prayer chant in some Chinese clinic. So we did it, and the first time we did it as a group, um, the the lady who we were remote healing said that her cancer was gone after the end of that 8 minutes. I never even knew her name. So believe me, if I can do this, anyone can do this. But it connects
Exactly.
to all those things of NLP and things like that. But we've got this technological method there as well. And so if you do that, I've had these master meditators saying, "What on earth did you do with those videos?" And they often say, I was kind of on the border of giggling to hysterical laughter. Well, that's something called Turiya, back to the love, the laughing Buddha. This is the highest
Mhm.
state of consciousness. So if you can get into that and connect to that deep cosmic laughter within yourself, then you're really onto something, I think.
This is an excellent segue to get back to Crystal because there's a couple of things that both of us do. And instead of saying, you make me happy or you make me angry, we allow ourselves to be happy. And if we get angry, we've allowed that person to affect us. Crystal, the floor is yours. Back to
Yes,
you.
certainly. Well, you know what? It's just meant to be, I guess. We had Marina Jacobi in the first session talking about quantum manifestation, right? And I did, when I was discussing with Mike about speaking on this platform, I said the first speaker is Marina, quantum manifestation. Oh, I do that too, Mike is saying. Right. So this is what she was talking about, right? Go to her website. Thanks, Mike, for reminding me to show here for everyone's well. This is Marina's website, marinajacobi.com. Go in there, click on that, and do your own quantum manifestation. It's about co-creating with Source, your holographic matrix. You want to get back to that reality, the positive reality that you want is a mind body spirit thing, isn't it? Mind body connection, where Mike was presenting to you what can be done, with the devices, with the healing technologies, and you don't just do that alone because you have to create your reality with your thoughts, right? With your
But
consciousness.
the beauty,
Very
Crystal, is they don't care what you think. The frequencies and the technologies don't care what you think. They don't care what blockages you've got. They just go, thank you very much. I'm having kind of an energetic conversation with the body, and then the mind and the spirit and everything else just follows on because that's the way it works. So and this is one of the things I enjoy most is people who are skeptical about these technologies, and then the look on their face when they get the result, and it's like watching a flower open. Now they're interested. Now they know that there is something else outside the limited reality that they thought existed, and suddenly they're on a different trajectory, not just in healing but in life, I think.
You see, this is so wonderful to have a speaker like Mike because we are certainly on the same level of resonance. I mean, with the same kind of knowledge that we have within us, we certainly resonate with what he's saying. And the mind body connection is awesomely powerful. What Marina's saying, and Jerry was sharing on the screen on the quantum manifestation meditations that Mike was talking about. So if you would see on the screen now, I have put it up here. So you can go, right, Jerry? I mean, the link that was on chat, uh, uh, Jerry was posting on chat. So if you could find a link. What I'm going to do is in the video description, when I finally publish it, it's going to have the link. So I guess, Mike, this is what you talk about, right? The quantum manifestation meditations. So if you would just write your own software program of the positive reality that you want to co-create with source, God source, the outcome of your reality, like, your holographic matrix that you're creating, along with this in the background, the quantum manifestation meditations music in the background with the solfeggio frequencies. I guess that's what it's about, isn't it, Mike?
No, it's much more than that. In fact,
Yes.
this is the work of Brenda Williams, who is unbelievable. She's
Mm.
absolutely the cutting edge. She describes these frequencies as the spirit frequencies, and this is not an ego thing for her. She's an absolutely brilliant quantum physicist. So her website is well worth a look, which is called Being Wholly Human, WHOLLY, human. .com, I think it is, and also then the frequencies are embedded in the music by a guy called Steve Scudler. If you look for the triad wave music, so this is I should have credited them, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity to say that, because they put something very special into these meditations.
Mm-hmm. If you don't mind me just playing a little bit, just to see what it's like. Yeah. Okay, so I guess I have the sound on, right? Can you hear the sound?
Observe the changes in your body before
Bring your sound up a little bit more.
during this meditation. First, sit or lie in a relaxed position.
It's like a hypnotherapy
And
session.
in your own time, the reset breath.
It's not coming through audio very well.
Oh,
It's
it's not
very,
coming
very
through.
weak.
Oh,
I think it's coming through the speakers, probably.
I'm going to share screen again, but I'm going to optimize the video, okay? Oh, shucks, sorry. It doesn't work. Never mind. I think people has got the link. As I said, I'm going to share the link. Yeah. It's with Mike's voice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. You did great there, bro. As I said, Mike Upstone is one of the most committed light warriors. Like me, I mean, we were talking, we were having long talks with this shared common interest of ours that is setting up humanitarian initiatives all of our lives and doing this work for free for everyone. But we have to look after ourselves as well, otherwise we'll be in trouble. So Mike has come up with this, and do folks get the products from him and through our link as well, KHA28, right, behind his website. So we can help each other out and do great things for humanity. Right. So is there any questions from Mike on the Q&A? We are already on the Q&A session, folks. So if you have a question for Mike, just unmute yourself. You don't need to put your hand up, and just speak up, okay? Because most of us here are regulars. We know each other very well for years. Good then.
Bless you, Rick. Good for you.
Okay, so
Scotty over here.
very
nice.
It
really puts a lot of things together that make logical sense. Does that little the little thing that looked like a remote for a ceiling fan, that was the laser thing? Do you move it when you use it, and does it go through bandages and clothing and stuff? And that wound on the old woman's arm, that's kept with a bandage. It was just removed to take the picture. It looked like I didn't see, like they just peeled the bandage off.
Scott, it's not nice when you talk and you don't show yourself. It's just a black screen.
I don't know.
I don't have a camera hooked up. I have a virus.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Scott, I don't know, is the answer. This is in fact, you don't even need to switch this on, but I have done. You just connect this to the body. This is kind of like really Star Trek stuff. This is the ENS working, putting in all 4 frequencies, being driven by my body, at the
Wow.
moment. So I don't know if that was one that you were referring to.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think
Yeah, that's
this
the one.
is
It looks smaller on the screen. So that goes through bandages and clothing, or you have to remove the bandages?
oh no, that's electrical. That needs to be connected directly to the skin, though.
that.
One of the very, very interesting things, which is that, for example, if I'm out, and I've got this device with me and I can see someone with a problem, am I going to, even go to a lady and say, look, I can help you with your back problem. Let me reach down the back of your dress or your skirt or whatever and put this on your back. No, this is back to the body's sort of fractal connections, which is that in fact the body's matrix is wired together in such a way as the nerve inflammation in the mid back, for example, is reflected throughout the body. And we can pick this up through various techniques with this kind of technology. And we just brush and we look for resistance, or we get measurements, and then we treat on that point. And then people look at us as if we're very, very strange people. And then when we tell them they're done, then they start wriggling around going, what on earth? How did that happen? Now, then we've got the laser technology. So, and this is actually a banned device, but it's been banned for a good reason. It's a phenomenal piece of technology, quite unusual, and fully regenerative as well. So this kind of thing, then yeah, this can go through clothing. We would tend not to put it through black clothing because there's, too broad frequencies of light being picked up through that. But it will certainly go through most clothing. It goes pretty deep as well. If you've got the lights off, you can see it really going quite deeply into the skin. So, but how to use this and how to optimize it then becomes very, very important. So, for example, with my baby daughter, when she was teething, 10 seconds was enough. Uh, when she was stung on the finger by a hornet when she was 2, I think that was about 6 minutes. Or if I'd had a headache or something like that, then, that might be sort of 9 or 10 minutes kind of thing. And there's no real point in a manual for this because it's not that formulaic like prescriptions. It's something where you're looking for certain physiological responses from the body. So, but the beauty of it is it's all very, very simple and safe. And
Which one came out from the Russian
So
scientist
to
Peter Garrett's
clarify, so to
work?
clarify, you move it, you're like locating the chakras. It's not like I was picturing like a laser, you're just gonna aim it on one spot, but you are moving it around and um finding the meridians and chakras and stuff. Very interesting. Perhaps bentonite clay would be good to help absorb other stuff out, and it still might go through that. Any You mentioned growing back bone. What about for infections in teeth and growing back teeth? And I yield there. Thanks.
yeah, I'm really, really interested in that as well. And the fact is that it becomes rather difficult because, like this, in the old days, the previous generation, the ENS. So I'm talking about this is not Dr. Garyev's equipment. This is
Yeah.
Dr. Karasev's equipment. Then, so in the old days, I knew that the ENS was brilliant at many things, but it really wasn't very good at bites and stings. Whereas the laser was absolutely outstanding at that stuff. So you could get, I was bitten in the night by a horsefly, and my daughter, who was staying over with me, woke me up. She's 8 years of age, and complaining about the bites. So 3 o'clock, 3:30 in the morning. I'm not going to sort of give a 10-minute treatment. It's a few seconds with the laser, and then roll over and get back to sleep again. Well, in the morning, I looked at my arm and went, "What?
Mhm.
Well, did I dream that?" And then I found because I'm not going to put this away then at the at that time in the morning, I put it down by the bed. So that's absolutely correct. The horsefly bites were just gone as if they'd never happened in the first place, within a few seconds of treatment. However, then Dr. Karasev introduces the ENS Plus with a whole, and these people don't mess about when it's got a whole new um, frequency set or modality built into the device, then all those old assumptions have to go out the window because I no longer know about the things that this is not good at. So we have got to go through all that experiential stuff again of okay, well, what is this doing differently from the old device? And so that becomes a little bit sort of problematic. You've almost got to start again. Um, but you can also then calibrate against the stuff that you have treated in the past, like in my case, leg ulcers and stuff like that. So yeah, that's where it becomes a little bit more complex in terms of putting these equipment sets together and then synergizing them as well, because not all lasers work with this kit. So let me give you a very, very brief. You can treat as much as you want with the Karasev technology directly to the skin, but the cold laser or the soft laser, you can, switch off a lot of pains within a few minutes. However, if you overtreat with the laser, then what happens is you're looking for a very, very subtle and discrete set of signals to say that the body's had enough. And if not, you've got to go through a calibration process. If you miss that and you overtreat with the laser, what happens is there's a dip when the pain goes to zero or as near as damn it to zero. And then if you overtreat, it all comes back again.
Oh dear.
The problem, because it's like the treatment is completely undone. And this both happens in terms of overuse of the laser in a single session, but also overuse over a period of time, too much regularity. So less is more with the laser, and knowing this is very important because the problem from a sort of patient's perspective now is my pain was 9 out of 10, but then it went to 0. And in the process, I forgot all about this pain. And then I was overtreated and it came back at force 9. But my calibration point was not the 9 from before. It was now the 0 that I felt beforehand. So it can actually feel worse than it did before. So this is where that I can treat absolutely without limitation. And in fact, if I really sort of cane it too much, it's just going to tell me, and then it's going to turn off. This was described as consciousness technology by one of these guys from the Secret Space program.
Yeah, I was going to say the
Whereas
scanner
this,
was from what's his name now, Scott? You remember he worked with the Secret Space Program conglomerate corporations, and he came out to whistleblow. And he said he can't live without the scanner because the scanner is also making him younger as well, apart from healing him from all the afflictions, right? I mean, being a super soldier, I mean, they got injured frequently as well, right? So you remember the guy whose fiance was airing dirty laundry about him in public because he left her or whatever, and she was disappointed with him. Remember that one, Scott? What's his name?
I don't remember. I don't, no recollection.
Okay. He's a scientist who helped develop the scanner with the secret space programs people. Right?
I'm not sure whether they developed it. I suspect that they borrowed it from the Russians, because this is what the Russians are doing with this technology is absolutely phenomenal, really. Yeah, and the Russian Academy of Sciences is heaving with these characters, who are absolutely just brilliant at what they do, especially on the medical side of things.
Yeah. So we have to wrap it up soon because
I was going to jump in real quick.
Sure.
Yeah, I was going to jump in one more time. Sorry, Crystal.
No, it's all right.
Typically, we get into pain, and pain is a really interesting phenomena in humans. We can accumulate layers of pain. We can ignore a tremendous amount of it. When we run into patients that have the pain removed, let's say you go from a chronic 9 out of 10, and I've run into a lot of people with that heavy pain loads, and it drops down to 4. They're going, oh, what relief. But it comes up one little bit. It's like, oh, no. No. They've reset their rheostat to that lower amount. And so this retuning, as you were describing, is super important.
In fact, that is because the problem or the challenge of this technology is everybody's body is different and everybody's body is different every day. How do we deal with that? We have to have methodology to be able to deal with that. And in fact, that phenomenon that you've just described is actually the way that we derive our treatment interval. So what we do is we typically very, very often take someone's pain from 7 to 9 out of 10 down to maybe somewhere between 3 and 0. And then we'd say the moment it starts to come back again, or it starts to get a little bit worse, come back, because that's your treatment interval. And then there's a really good chance next time we're going to take it down to 0. Then we're going to take another little pause. And if it goes away completely, great, you're done. But if it starts to creep back again, that's your treatment, that's your new treatment interval. So come back and do that. And then we might say, okay, well, it's now been 3 days. Come back 2 or 3 more times at a 3-day interval. Then we're going to take another little pause again and see if we've completely knocked it on the head, or if we have a new treatment interval of maybe 6 or 7 days, something like that. So this is how we deal with the uniqueness of the body through methodology, through these with these technologies.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Mike is very knowledgeable. Okay, that's how he came up with all this through his research, the best healing modalities and devices and technology for us. So it saves all of us a lot of time, as Scott was saying. Mike has put it together for us. Why look any further and just get it through our link here to the products page, and you're fine. It saves a lot of time. And Mike is certainly not the kind of person who would charge you sky high, He makes a small little profit margin that is helping everyone, so
The opposite, in fact, because we're non-profit and because we've got, special sort of privileges with customs and stuff like that, and we don't really want to undermine anyone else in the market. There's very, very little margin with something like this. So I think it's about 5% or something like that, and we share that with the referral.
affiliates.
Well, I think it's 10%, and we get 5 and they get 5. So
Wow.
we can't go really any lower on that without jeopardizing our survival, but also being unfair on other people. So we try and just strike this very, very fine balance on. We want to keep the prices as low as possible. We want to help as many people.
Absolutely. Well, we know your heart, bro. Thank you so much. Well, so I have seen some messages on chat. The one who's holding Samsung SM, you said the body electric book has something to do with regrowing human limbs in 1955. For your information, could you put the link here on chat so we can investigate? We certainly would like to have these healing modalities known. So we do have, as you heard, Marina Jacobi saying, at least 3 of us in our team needs some attention. Yeah.
I think a lot of these things we really have to, because I've heard numerous things over the years about regrowing teeth, for example, and it gets buried. Maybe the inventor or the developer chooses the wrong way to try and disclose or protect, or both, this particular technology. It gets swept away. We don't know, and then someone else will come along and they'll sort of have to reinvent it. So there seems to be this sort of ebb and flow with stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely right. I know that kind of stuff was going on, but do we have the exact frequencies for that so that we can replicate it? I think we're getting really very close with this combination of technologies that are on at the moment.
Yeah. Meanwhile, folks, I think this is what we can do before the mid-bits gets rolled out. And whether they are going to be within the next few years, we have no idea. But we have to help ourselves right now. Okay. Okay, now, is there any? Oh, Mona replied to Samsung that she can't find the book on the internet. What book is that now? The body electric book. Yeah. So Samsung, would you be able to help us with the link, please? Okay, right. Oh, 0.9 volt DC. Yes, it's in the book. Okay, can't attach picture here. Fine. Right. Well, we don't have time. We don't have much time. You could write to me, Samsung Crystal at throughvisionofpeace.com. That will be helpful, right? Then I can put the link on the description as well on the video recording. Okay. Anybody else who wants to have a last question for Mike before I close this meeting and adjourn it to the next, which will be our 130th meeting in November. Okay, so we have get links from start. Oh, okay, you put the links at the start of the chat. All right. Okay, gotcha. I can't, I don't have time to look at it. I'm chairing this meeting. So anybody else wants to have a last mention before I adjourn this meeting? Press, you got anything in mind?
This has been excellent, and I think I'm going to just turn it right back over to you because I've dominated the questions today.
All right. Okay. Right. Anybody else? Jerry, you have anything you want to say? Ian, Karen, John? So many of us here. Thanks, Mona, for searching things out on chat. Metis, bro. Oh, we have Bill Dot here as well. Okay, I see Res. Are you Res one? Res one. No, it's okay. I think we're coming to a close now. So, folks, there being no other business. Now, our 129th FESIG meeting is adjourned to the 130th meeting. And that will be November the 6th, okay? That will be the first Wednesday of the month, November the 6th. Please pen it down in your diary so you don't miss any of FESIG's meeting where you learn so much. And I would like to say a very big thank you to Mike Upstone for gracing our platform with his knowledge that we are gleaning from, and also saving us a lot of time searching and looking for the awesome devices that heal so quickly. Thank you so much, Mike.
Yeah, I'm in Austria in response to that question. And thank you very much, everyone. Have a great rest of the day or evening, wherever you are.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, yeah. And guys, if you want to know about Mike's, what you call that? Verein, the trust, the universal trust, please go back to the video that we did on our 34th meeting at our YouTube channel with Mike, okay, in 2017. Yeah, he had explained that, right, Mike? Unless you have something new, then that's something else. Right. So, folks, there being no other business, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you so much. We can stop recording now. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for attending.